Hello guys, today we are basically discussing little bit about the diabetes. Diabetes, what is the what is diabetes, how it's occur in our body, what are the treatment option is available. These are the things we are going to discuss in a short manner. So first of all, diabetes. So, if you consider the term diabetes mellitus, it describes a metabolic disorder. Basically, it's a metabolic disorder of multiple etiology. It not associated with the single etiology or single cause or single characteristics. It's occur due to the multiple etiology uh, by chronic hyperglycemia. Hyperglycemia means increase the blood sugar level in our blood with disturbance of the carbohydrate, fat and protein metabolism, which resulting from the defect in the insulin due to the maybe due to insulin secretion, due to maybe insulin action or both, or there may be a development of the insulin resistance in our body. That is also an important and vital factor. So hyperglycemia occur because of uncontrolled hepatic glucose output, and also there is a reduce in the uptake of the glucose by the skeletal muscle with reduced glycogen synthesis. When the renal threshold of the glucose reabsorption is exceed, glucose spills over into the urine, that we known as glycosuria, and cause the osmotic diuresis. So basically, if we consider that the diabetes mellitus, it's a metabolic disorder with the multiple etiological characteristics which leads to the development of the chronic hyperglycemia, increase the blood sugar concentration in our body due to the abnormal metabolism of the carbohydrate, due to the abnormal metabolism of fat and protein. That result may be defect due to the impaired insulin secretion, or there is a due to the insulin action, there may be development of the autoantibody and all other things. So hyperglycemia basically occur because of the uncontrolled hepatic glucose output, because in when our liver are producing more amount of the glucose, that time also increase the glucose concentration in our body and reduce the uptake of the glucose by the skeletal muscle. We know that when we are eating meal, then that contain much more amount of the carbohydrate, that carbohydrate are absorbed or stored in uptake by the skeletal muscle, adipose tissue, like that. If this skeletal muscle and adipose tissue are not uptake the carbohydrate, then they increase the carbohydrate concentration or glucose concentration in our body. And glycogen, which is the storage form of the glucose, if there is an increase in the glycogen synthesis, then there is also chances of the increase the glucose concentration in our body. So when this condition occur, so the renal threshold of the glucose reabsorption, because when it's passed through the kidney, that time there is a reabsorption of the glucose occur, but there is a limit is there. When this threshold limit is crossed, glucose reabsorption, then this glucose is excreted or spill over into the urine, means along with urine the glucose is excreted from your body. That term is we known as glycosuria and cause the osmotic diuresis, polyuria. So these are the diabetes mellitus. Now if we classify the diabetes mellitus, there is a different type of diabetes mellitus. Type 1, insulin dependent diabetes mellitus. Type 2, that is also known as insulin independent diabetes mellitus or maturation onset diabetes mellitus. Type 2, that is we are considering gestational diabetes mellitus. And type 3 diabetes, and other type, that is latent autoimmune diabetes of the adult, and MODY, maturity onset diabetes of the youth, and secondary diabetes mellitus. So now we considering the type 1. Type 1, our body is unable to produce the insulin due to the destruction of the beta cell of the pancreas. There is lots of the factors, because already in definition I already mentioned that it is the multiple etiological cause. So multiple etiology or multiple symptoms are associated with this one. So due to this etiological factor, there is a damage in the pancreatic beta cell. So our pancreas are not able to produce the sufficient amount of the insulin which will required in our body. So that time that is known as type 1 diabetes mellitus. In that time we need direct insulin from outside to our body to maintain the blood sugar level. And type 2, that is insulin independent diabetes mellitus, that is mainly due to the insulin resistance by the muscle tissue etc., or sometimes there is a lack of secretion of the insulin also occur from the pancreatic beta cell due to the different etiology or different disease condition. So then there is type 2 that is further divided into gestational diabetes mellitus. In this condition, glucose intolerance during the pregnancy due to the metabolic and hormonal changes. So in pregnancy cases, what occur in body, there is a lots of hormonal and metabolic changes are occur. In that time this pregnant lady may develop the blood sugar level beyond the normal level, but after delivery it will comes to the normal if she will maintain the things properly. So in that condition the diabetes mellitus, that is called as gestational diabetes mellitus. And type 3, it's a diabetes term for insulin resistance in the brain leads to the development of the Alzheimer disease. So sometime in our brain there is a resistance to the insulin, so that will ultimately lead to the development of the disease like Alzheimer, that is we are considering the type 3 diabetes. But the information regarding this type of diabetes are less. So proper mechanism and proper understanding of this one still not clear. So then there is other type, LADA, latent autoimmune diabetes of the adult. It is mainly due to the islets autoantibody formation. So if there is a autoantibody formation, there is insulin resistance, so that so insulin are not able to bind to the receptor and are not able to produce the utilize the glucose. So that is one. And MODY, that is maturity onset diabetes of youth, causes by the mutation of number of gene due to the genetic defect. This type of the diabetes is occur. And then there is secondary diabetes mellitus, which refer to a category in which diabetes is associated with other disease condition. So these are the different type of the diabetes, these are the different things. Now we come to the regulation of blood glucose. How in our body blood glucose is regulated? So if you see that the left hand portion, there is an increase in glucose concentration, and the bottom portion, if you see that there is a decrease in glucose concentration. So increase glucose concentration, decrease glucose concentration. Which is responsible? The responsible is the main thing, that is the pancreas. So what happen when there is a increase in glucose concentration? Pancreas detected by the beta cell in islets of Langerhans, and beta cell secreted the insulin into the bloodstream. Hepatocyte responds to the hormone, level of respiration increases, decreases in glucose concentration, normal blood glucose level you are achieving. So you are maintaining the regulation of the blood glucose when there is a increase in the blood glucose concentration. But when there is a decrease in blood glucose concentration, that is detected by the alpha cell in the islets of Langerhans, that alpha cell secrete the glucagon into the bloodstream. Hepatocyte responds to that hormone, breakdown of the glucose and fatty acid, and increase the glucose concentration and maintain the normal blood level, which will ultimately, the pancreas is mainly responsible for maintaining the blood sugar level. If it is increase the glucose level, it will release the insulin. If it is decrease the glucose level, it will release the glucagon. So by this way it will maintain the blood sugar level or regulate the blood sugar in our body and maintain the homeostasis of the blood sugar concentration in our body. Then pathophysiology of type 1 diabetes. If first we are considering that there is a genetic susceptibility, so there is a ineffective defensive barrier, ineffective immunoresponse, Insulating agent, pancreatopic viruses are also associated. Then all of these three things are responsible for the autoimmune process begins. So if autoimmune process begins, then it will activate the T lymphocyte and macrophage. T lymphocyte activate the CD4 cell and interferon gamma, INF gamma. Then macrophage activate the AG and it will activate the TNF alpha. So interferon gamma and TNF alpha are responsible for the beta cell destruction, and AG also further converted to the interleukin 1. Interleukin 1 also responsible for the beta cell destruction. So there is more than 90% of the destruction of the beta cell, and there is precipitating factor like stressor also influence the destruction of the beta cell, which will ultimately develop the type 1 diabetes mellitus. So here we things are genetic susceptibility, ineffective defensive barrier, ineffective immunoresponse, insulating agent like pancreatopic virus, which ultimately responsible for the activating the autoimmune process. Then there is a activation of macrophage and lymphocyte. Then there is a activation of CD4, INF gamma, TNF alpha, interleukin 1, and ultimately that will leads to the destruction of the beta cell, and it will develop the type 1 diabetes mellitus. If we go to the pathophysiology of the type 2 diabetes mellitus, then there is a genetic, adipokinase, inflammation and hyperglycemia, free fatty acid level and other factor, free radical. These all are responsible for the beta cell dysfunction. So there is a beta cell dysfunction, so there is decrease the insulin release from the pancreas. In upper portion you can see that there is decrease the amount of the insulin release from the pancreas. Decrease insulin release or insulin resistance, what happen in liver, there is a increase the glucose production, and adipose tissue there is a increase of lipolysis, and the muscle there is a decrease the glucose uptake. So ultimately all leads to the increase the blood glucose concentration or blood glucose level. So different different factor, diabetic gene, adipokinase, inflammation, hyperglycemia, free fatty acid, free radical and lots of other disease factor and all other things which will stimulate the beta cell dysfunction, that will influence the insulin release, and there is a maybe decreased level of the insulin, or maybe insulin is there but there is a insulin resistance, autoantibody formation to the insulin receptor, and in liver there is a increase the glucose production. In fatty acid, adipose tissue there is a increase the lipolysis, and muscle there is a decrease the glucose uptake, and which ultimately leads to the increase the blood glucose concentration. So it will develop the type 2 diabetes. So what happen when there is a insulin deficiency? So this will work in both two pathway. There is increased catabolism and there is decreased anabolism. So what happen if there is a decreased anabolism? It leads to the hyperglycemia, then it leads to the glycosuria, osmotic diuresis, salt and water depletion. Ultimately it will leads to the death. But in case of increased catabolism, increased glycogenolysis, gluconeogenesis, lipolysis, hyperketonemia, acidosis and diabetic ketoacidosis, which will ultimately leads to the death. So ultimately if there is a insulin deficiency, so there is a increased catabolism and decreased anabolism. So one will develop the ketoacidosis and another will develop the salt and water depletion, that ultimately leads to the coma or death. So what are the sign and symptom? First you consider that you feel always tired, and there is polydipsia, drink excessive amount of the fluid, polyuria, osmotic diuresis, development of sexual problem, lipolysis, hydrolysis to the release of fatty acid, delay healing of the wounds, neuropathy, dysfunction of the one or more peripheral nerve, nephropathy, albuminuria affected the kidney, cataract, blurry vision, and cardiovascular diseases, heart attack, stroke, etc. you can develop due to development of the diabetes. These are all associated with the diabetes. Now come to the etiology of the diabetes. What are the etiology? What are the cause which is responsible for the development of the diabetes? So first there is environmental factor. Lots of environmental factors are there. Whatever food we are taking, then drinks we are having, that environmental and all other surroundings in our surroundings, that all are sometime responsible for the development or degeneration of the beta cell in our body, or maybe develop insulin resistance. And then there is a genetic factor. Genetically we are we are already predisposed to the some genetic factor. There is a mutation of the some gene which will responsible for the development of the diabetes. Elevation free fatty acid level. And then there is a autoimmunity factor. If autoimmunity will develop, it will resist the insulin, but to bind to the insulin receptor. So the insulin is there, but it will not able to work properly. So there is autoimmune factor is there. Impaired insulin secretion due to the some disease condition, or due to the some lots of factors are there which may responsible for the impaired insulin secretion. Increase hepatic glucose synthesis. So liver will synthesize more amount of the glucose. Free radical which will responsible for the damaging the beta cell. And insulin resistance in muscle, where there is a uptake of the due to the insulin resistance, there is a uptake of the glucose is inhibited. And obesity, taking the junk food and all other things which are associated, or which will ultimately there is a development or elevation of the free fatty acid, which will leads to the further development of the diabetes. Then low physical activity. If you are doing low physical activity, that is also associated, sometime associated with the development, because if you are having low physical activity, then there is automatically you will related to the obesity. Then there is a chances of the development of the diabetes. Then hypertension, it is the another cause which will also responsible for the development of the diabetes. So these are the etiological factor which will responsible for the development of the diabetes. Then diagnosis of the diabetes. What are the diagnosis test we are performing for check the diabetes? We are checking the random blood sugar test, and then we are going for the fasting blood sugar test. Then there is a glycosylated hemoglobin. Glycosylated hemoglobin means some glucose molecule attached with the hemoglobin. So if you are going through random blood sugar test, you will not get the count of that part of the glucose in your body. So glycosylated hemoglobin nowadays are prominent test for the detection of diabetes. Then there is oral glucose tolerance test. So diagnosis: normal fasting plasma glucose mg per dl, it is 99 or below. Pre-diabetic 100 to 125, and diabetic 126 or above. Oral glucose tolerance test, it is 139 or below, 140 to 199, 200 or above. And glycosylated hemoglobin HbA1c, which is about normal is 5, and pre-diabetic is 5.7 to 6.4, and diabetes is more than 6.5. So now classification of the oral hypoglycemic agent. So classification, we are classify the drugs: sulfonyl urate, the first generation, tolbutamide, tolazamide, chloropropamide, glibenclamide, glipizide. Then there is a meglitidine analog, ripaglidine, netaglidine, dipeptidyl peptidase 4 inhibitor, sitagliptin, then alpha glucosidase inhibitor, acarbose, miglitol, and thiazolidones, pioglitazone, and biguanides, metformin. So these are the drug basically used for the type 2 diabetes, but in case of the type 1 diabetes we are only having the option is insulin. Rather than insulin there is no option. So it is only for type 2 diabetes mellitus. So in type 2 diabetes mellitus we are using this type of the drug. Depending upon the symptom and nature we are using this type of the drug. Now we come to the one by one drug. Mechanism of action of sulfonyl urase and meglitidine analog. So you can see that here there is a sulfonyl urase, sulfonyl urea, which there is a potassium channel, there is a receptor, and there is meglitidine analog, that is nitaglidine and ripaglidine, that bind to the specific receptor where sulfonyl urea are binding. So what happened? Drug bind to the ATP dependent potassium channel on the surface of the beta cell and inhibited the channel. So there is depolarization of the cell membrane occur, influx of the calcium through the voltage dependent calcium channel leads to the insulin release. So what happens? Sulfonyl urea and meglitidine analog, they bind to the receptor and they block the potassium channel. By blocking the potassium channel, so that calcium will enter inside the beta cell. Calcium will enter inside the beta cell, it will produce the excitation and it will help to release the insulin. So the insulin level in our body is increased and it will metabolize the glucose so that it can control the normal blood sugar level. And other way, in liver it's inhibit the new glucogenesis and glycogenolysis. In liver it have other function. So what happens? Sulfonyl urase and meglitidine analog bind to the potassium channel and inhibit the potassium, block the potassium channel. So entry of the calcium occur and there is a depolarization. So the depolarization, it will release the insulin, that insulin will come into the bloodstream and metabolize the glucose and normalize the blood sugar level. In liver also it inhibited the new glucogenesis and glycogenolysis. And what are the pharmacokinetic? It is well absorbed after oral administration and reach peak plasma concentration within 2 to 4 hours. Commonly bind with the plasma albumin and excreted through the urine, able to cross the placenta and enter into breast milk. Adverse effect are hypoglycemia, decreased food intake, vomiting, allergic reaction, bone marrow depression, leukopenia, agranulocytosis, aplastic anemia, jaundice and eosinophilia. Therapeutic application: maturity onset type of diabetes, treatment of insulin resistant diabetes and diabetes insipidus, and drug interaction with the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drug, antifungal drug, anticoagulant drug, alcohol, antibiotic like sulfonamide. So these are the drug interaction. Now meglitidine analog, these are quick or short acting insulin secretogenous, because it will also help the secretion of the insulin. And the mechanism of action same as sulfonyl urea. ADM is orally well absorbed, very fast onset of action 1 hour, short duration of action, metabolized in liver by the CYP3A4 and excreted mainly by the bile. And adverse effect are dizziness, nausea, weight gain, hypoglycemia. This therapeutic application only in type 2 diabetes or patient allergic with the sulfonyl urase. Contraindication: liver disease and renal disease. Drug interaction: enzyme inhibitor, cimetidine, fluconazole, and enzyme inducer like barbiturate, phenytoin and rifampicin. So here we are discussing two class of the drug, one is sulfonyl urea, another one is meglitidine analog. Both the mechanism are similar. Now mechanism of dipeptidyl peptidase 4 inhibitor. So when we are taking the after meal, there is a in our gut, in creating gut hormone, it will release the GLP-1 hormone. This GLP-1 when activated, it will responsible for the long term GLP-1 action. What is long term GLP-1 action? Increase insulin biosynthesis. So GLP-1 is responsible for, in activated form it will responsible for the insulin biosynthesis, promote beta cell differentiation. So and then acute GLP-1 action, inhibit glucose secretion and hepatic glucose production, so slow gastric emptying, increase the glucose disposal and augment the glucose induced insulin secretion. So what happened? These GLP-1 are inactivated by the dipeptidyl peptidase 4. So if we are inhibiting the dipeptidyl peptidase 4, so more GLP-1 will in active form and it will shows its pharmacological action and it will help to the reduce the blood sugar level in the normal and it will also help in the biosynthesis and differentiation of the beta cell. So by using the drug like dipeptidyl peptidase 4, we inhibit the deactivation of the GLP-1 enzyme, so that GLP-1 enzyme do its work and maintain the normal blood sugar level in our body. ADME pharmacokinetic, well absorbed after oral administration, given once daily, T half life is 8 to 14 hours, excreted through the urine. Adverse effect are nasopharyngitis, GI disturbance, hypoglycemia when used in combined with the other drug. Contraindication, patient with renal dysfunction and type 1 diabetes. Therapeutic application, treatment of the type 2 diabetes or as a combined therapy with other anti-diabetic drug. DPP-4 GLP-1 glucagon like peptide 1, drug interaction, pregnancy and breastfeeding women, you are not able to use this type of the drug. Then mechanism of action of alpha glucosidase inhibitor, these are the drug like acarbose. So what happen? Glucose converted to the glucose and other sugar converted to the oligosaccharide, because oligosaccharide it's converted to the glucose and other sugar, because oligosaccharide are in the complex form. In complex form our body is unable to utilize this carbohydrate, but when it is converted in the form of glucose, then our body is able to utilize this one. So alpha glucosidase inhibitor basically inhibit the conversion of oligosaccharide to the glucose and other sugar. So if oligosaccharide are not able to convert it to the glucose, so there is a normal or reduced amount of the blood glucose in our body, so it will maintain the normal homeostasis or normal blood glucose condition in our body. These drugs are taken at the beginning of the meal. Before you are taking meal, you have to take this type of the drug, because they act by delaying the digestion of the carbohydrate. So the basic mechanism, they delay the digestion of the carbohydrate and reversibly inhibit the enzyme alpha glucosidase at the intestinal brush border. It also inhibited the pancreatic alpha amylase, which is responsible for the breakdown of the starch to the oligosaccharide. So in which form we are taking the carbohydrate? It is in the complex form. So in complex form it is not able to utilize by our body. So by utilize our body, it have to convert it to the glucose, it's must. So there is two enzyme, alpha amylase and alpha glucosidase. So alpha amylase which converted the starch into the oligosaccharide, and then this oligosaccharide further alpha glucosidase it converted to the glucose, then our blood glucose level will increase. So before meal if we are taking this kind of the medication, then it will delay the digestion of the carbohydrate, and it will also break down the complex carbohydrate into the simple form of the sugar, so it will maintain the blood sugar level into the normal level. So pharmacokinetic, acarbose taken orally, poor absorbed, metabolized by the intestinal bacteria and excreted through stool and urine. Maglitol oil absorbed orally, no systemic effect, excreted unchanged urine, Adverse effects are flatulence, diarrhea, abdominal cramping, colonic ulceration. Contraindication: patients suffering from intestinal obstruction, renal diseases and hepatic diseases. Therapeutic application: treatment of the type 2 diabetes or as a combination uh, with insulin or sulfonylureas. Drug interaction are digoxin, charcoal or COX-2 inhibitor. Then we come to the mechanism of action of the thiazolidones, that is PPAR gamma agonist. Basically, this drug increase the insulin action in by uptake of the insulin in the muscle. In liver, it increase the insulin action, so decrease the glucose production, decrease the fatty acid synthesis. In pancreas, it influence the insulin release and increase the beta cell masses. In adipose tissue, it increase the fatty acid uptake and decrease the lipolysis. Ligand for PPAR gamma regulate the adipocyte production, secretion of the fatty acid and glucose metabolism. Agent binding to the PPAR gamma result in increased insulin sensitivity in the adipocyte, hepatocyte, skeletal muscle, hyperglycemia, hypertriglyceridemia and elevated HbA1c are all improved. HDL level are also elevated and accumulation of the subcutaneous fat occur with this agent. So, thiazolidone, these are the drug PPAR gamma agonist. Basically, they influence the utilization of the glucose by the various part of the body and also influence the insulin and insulin action and increase the beta cell mass. So, well absorbed after oral administration, 99% bound to the plasma protein, slow onset of action, half life is 3 to 4 hours, metabolized by the CYP 450 enzyme and excreted through urine and bile. Adverse effect are weight gain, fluid retention, headache, fatigue, GI disturbance. Drug interaction with insulin leads to the heart failure. Contraindicated in pregnant and breastfeeding women, heart patient. Therapeutic application: type 2 diabetes with insulin resistance combined with the sulfonylurea, biguanides and insulin as a combination therapy. Then we come to the biguanides. It's activate the protein kinase. So what happen? It activate the protein kinase, reduce the fatty acid and cholesterol synthesis in liver, increase the lipid oxidation and reduce the gluconeogenesis in liver. In adipose tissue, it reduce the lipolysis and lipogenesis. In the muscle, it increase the glucose utilization. Vascular endothelial, increase nitric oxide bioavailability, and heart increases the fatty acid uptake and oxidation and increase the glucose uptake and glycolysis. So ultimately, if this thing are happened, so what that then there is, you will get the benefit: weight loss, increase insulin sensitivity, improve the glycemia, improve the lipid profile, improve the vascular function. Now it is well absorbed from the GIT, not bound to the serum protein. Fenformin is 1/3 metabolized to inactive compound, 2/3 are excreted unchanged in urine, while metformin largely excreted to the unchanged in urine. T half life is 3 hours. Adverse effect are GI disturbance, lactic acidosis common in patient with the renal, hepatic, pulmonary or cardiac disease. Long term use interfere vitamin B12 absorption. Contraindicated in the pregnancy and renal disease, liver disease, alcohol and cardiopulmonary dysfunction. And therapeutic application are obese patient with non-insulin dependent diabetes mellitus, in juvenile diabetes, polycystic ovarian syndrome. This metformin, fenformin are widely used. Now come to the insulin, which is we are using in type 1 diabetes mellitus. It is the only option in type 1 diabetes mellitus, it is the insulin. So it is a polypeptide hormone, molecular weight is 580851 5808, 51 amino acid arranged in 2 chain. A is 20, A chain contain 21 and B chain contain 30, linked by the disulfide bridge. Secreted by the beta cell in pancreatic islets from proinsulin. Proinsulin is hydrolyzed into insulin and C peptide. Insulin and C peptide are secreted in equimolar amount in response to the all insulin secretogenous. Proinsulin might have mild hypoglycemic action, but C peptide is inactive. Formed insulin now is stored within the granules of the beta cell in the form of crystals consisting of the 2 atom of zinc and 6 molecule of insulin, which is equal to 8 mg or 200 biologic unit. 1 milligram contain 28 units of insulin. Degraded by the liver and kidney endogenous liver 60%, kidney 35 to 40%, exogenous liver 35 to 40% and kidney is 60%. Source: beef insulin differ by the 3 amino acid sequence from the human insulin. It is more antigenic. It is isolated and purified from the beef insulin. Procaine insulin differ by the 1 amino acid sequence, and then there is human insulin recombinant by the use of recombinant DNA technique, less immunogenic. It contains a threonine molecule which allows more rapid absorption and short duration of action. Mixing with phosphate buffer reduce the aggregation of regular insulin in infusion pump. So these are the different type of the insulin available in the market. Short acting provide postprandial needs, and long acting and insulin in combination form. So these are the aspart, Lispro, regular, glulisine. So these are the onset of action in hour less than 0.25, 5 to 1, and peak response you will get 0.5 to 1.5 hour, and effective up to 3 to 4 hour or 3 to 6 hour depending upon there. Then long acting Detamir, that is onset 1 to 4, it lasts 20 to 24 hour. NPH, it is onset is 1 to 4 and last 10 to 16 hour. Then insulin in combination 75 by 25, 75% protamine, Lispro 25% Lispro, onset of action and duration of action. And then you can see that 70 by 30, 70% NPH and 30% regular. Onset of action is 0.5 and dual, and up to 10 to 16 hour. These are the different preparation with brand name are available in the market. These are their onset and peak hour and effective time or duration. So what insulin do in our body? So in case of the type 1 insulin, we are taking the insulin. So what this insulin do in our body? So first, if you will go through this one, increase the triglyceride storage, increase the fatty acid synthesis. Then increase glucose uptake by the peripheral tissue, increase glucose uptake, increase synthesis and storage of the glycogen. Glycogen is formed from glucose, increase amino acid uptake, increase protein synthesis and increase glycogen synthesis. So this way it will utilize the glucose in our body. Whatever amount of the glucose we required, by after utilizing that amount we are using this glucose or store glucose in this form. And on the other hand, it increase the synthesis and storage of glycogen, decrease gluconeogenesis, decrease glycogenolysis, increase triglyceride synthesis, inhibit conversion of fatty acid to the keto acid and decrease the protein catabolism. So these all are the function which insulin will do in our body and maintain the blood sugar level or maintain the blood glucose level in the homeostasis. So we will function normally. So the pharmacokinetic, well absorbed after subcutaneous, intramuscular or intravenous administration, degraded within the liver and kidney. 80% is metabolized in the liver, half life is about 5 minutes, degraded by the hepatic glutathione insulin dehydrogenase enzyme. uh, Dehydrogenase enzyme disrupt SS bond and excreted through the urine. Adverse effects are coma due to the decreased blood glucose to the brain, increased sympathetic tachycardia, sweating, anxiety, increased parasympathetic nausea, vomiting, weight gain, hypersensitivity reaction, uh, lipodystrophy at injection site, insulin resistance, hypokalemia, contraindicated in liver problem, failure of small intestine to digest and absorb food, kidney disease, body temperature more than 101 degree Fahrenheit, low blood sugar, low amount of the potassium in the blood, interact with the beta blocker, oral contraceptive, diuretic, alcohol, salicylate, theophylline, angiotensin converting enzyme inhibitor, and treatment is only in type 1 diabetes, and also use combination therapy in type 2 diabetes, but type 2 diabetes it is not widely used, but it is basically used in case of the only type 1 diabetes mellitus. So these are the references, and thank you.